All right. Well, apparently I have been lumped into covering Piers Morgan more than I'd like to. That's where a lot of my views come from, and you know what? He does have very engaging content. But with that being said, I have totally been avoiding his channel and just him in general. And there was one specific one with Candace Owens and Mark Lamont Hill that I wanted to cover, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because he was just, he's so smug right now. He's doing the thing where he's, I knew that Trump would win. I knew that Trump would win. It's just like, I don't want to see it. But he had two of my favorite content creators and one of my least favorite content creators on. So I couldn't help but want to take a look at it. So you got Dave Rubin going against Brian Tyler Cohen, BTC, and David Pakman, who used to be one of my favorite creators, I should say. He kind of lost me. I unsubbed from his channel, and I know that a lot of other people did recently too. So let's take a look at this debate.
Politics is tough. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get.
He can actually pave the way for a really nice transition into a Trump presidency that I believe is going to bring back an 80s style revolution in America.
Having, the smartest guy on the planet stuck into government bureaucracy, I would have thought that's very popular, isn't it?
Department for Government Efficiency. New department when Trump wants to eliminate departments. I've got a list of 30 Rubin predictions. They're always wrong.
God, you're such a smug prick.
Piers, I am begging. Stop inviting these stupidest leftists on to make the argument for trans civil rights.
There's LGBTQ in breaking news right now on MSNBC. Like, I love calling out the BS.
What? Oh, you know what? I think they got hit. I'm pretty sure they got hit. I hope that. Yeah.
First, the stunning victory. Now, the MAGA revolution. Trump is at the White House with Joe Biden today as he sets forth his plans to turn things upside down. Can Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy turn the bloated federal government into a blue chip business? Or are these planet-sized egos heading for a cosmic explosion? Will Trump's new defense team give us peace through power? Or is this a sellout to the neocons? And as the Democrats simmer in the glow of a map-turned Republican red, where on earth do they go from here? In a moment, we'll debate all this with an all-star panel. But first, a short word about an interview we ran yesterday.
They said that it was 4 million that died in Auschwitz, and then they said it was.
I'm gonna have to cover this one.
They revised the figure.
Well, how many people? How many people do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
271,000 that died in Auschwitz.
How many do you think were killed in the Holocaust?
I don't know, but I would bet my entire net worth that it was under 6 million.
Well, unsurprisingly, the interview sparks a massive response. Bilzerian has millions of followers, and many of them, of course, called out of the woodwork to cheerlead him. Plenty of people were shocked, as indeed I was in real time, that any public figure could spew such obvious prejudice. As
that guy has a fan base.
Others, well, a few people, are angry at me for giving him a platform. Michael Rappaport said, I'm sick of Piers Morgan having disgusting, known, proven, shitbag Jew haters on his show and saying afterwards, I don't agree. Jewish people, please unfollow this scumbag now. Piers Morgan also hates Jews. Oh, Michael, calm down, you silly little man. Obviously don't hate Jews. And the thing about platforms is that
all right. Well, Michael Rappaport is kind of a silly little man, so
everybody has access to them. You've often yourself been offered access to mine, but you haven't appeared yet. The offer still stands if you have the guts. In the new media landscape, anyone can speak unfiltered or uncensored to their followers and acolytes. At least when I interview somebody with incendiary views, audiences get to see those views being vigorously challenged. And free speech is supposed to be uncomfortable. It's only by hearing the polar opposite of your own worldview you can be sure that you're right and understand why you believe that you are. Dan Bilzerian went a lot further than I was expecting him.
Damn it, I hate when I agree with what he says.
I was genuinely appalled
that makes
by
me
what
mad.
I was hearing. I started out the interview thinking it was going to be more about his apparent so-called redemption arc. As you all saw, there's no redemption arc. He's sunk into an abyss of anti-Semitism. And on that point, I've interviewed many people on both sides of the Israel-Palestine debate, professors, politicians, medics, victims, journalists, musicians, diplomats, comedians, and more. At regular intervals, I've been criticised by people on both sides. Do I think Dan Bilzerian's interview made some big intellectual contribution to his vexed debate? No, I don't, actually. But as a beginner's guide to the kind of ignorant anti-Semitism that's suddenly becoming extremely and worryingly prevalent, I think it was quite an eye-opener. And to the many Bilzerian...
I mean, I know that from everything that, like, about his Twitter. I'm surprised that people are just now kind of finding out about this.
Fans demanding we release the unedited interview because they thought their man surely couldn't have come across that badly. Well, I'm afraid I've got bad news for you. That was the unedited interview. That's what he really sounds like when he actually has to talk about these despicable views. If we cut out the parts, frankly, that I didn't agree with, it would have been the shortest interview of the year, as well as the most shocking. But now down to real business with my stellar panel of white dudes for and
check it out,
Harris, host of the Rubin Report, Dave Rubin, host of the David Pakman Show, David Pakman, host of No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen, and host of the Ben Ferguson podcast.
He's in his grief hoodie.
Ben Ferguson. What a magnificent quartet of
white
dudes you've ever
from that hoodie.
David Pakman, I want to start with you. You were very clear to me when we spoke before the election that this whole issue of transgenders in sport and so on was completely irrelevant and nobody cared. Let me remind you.
You're saying Kamala Harris and Biden have come out in support of this.
They do. They support policies which actively protect. They support policies that protect transgender athletes performing in women's sport. And I think that is madness. You're saying, well, because most of these things in this UN report were outside of America, it doesn't matter. It does matter.
What I'm saying, it's a completely contrived issue that almost no one cares about in every single opinion poll.
Wow. Well, the problem is, David, you couldn't have possibly been any more wrong, because the New York Times, the liberal Bible, did a whole piece about the ad that Trump ran, which is the Kamala's for they, them, Donald Trump's for you. They said it was one of the most effective 30-second spots in political history and may have shifted the race, according to her own side.
I do hate to say, I saw some of the reporting on that, and it did move the needle.
By 2.7 percentage points in Trump's favor after people watched it. Let's take a look at the ad before I come to you.
Especially in the swing states.
For prisoners. For prisoners, every transgender.
See, this is why I didn't want to do this.
In the prison system would have access.
Hell no, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to that.
Kamala supports transgender sex changes in jail with our money.
Kamala even supports letting biological men compete against our girls in their sports. Kamala is for they, them. President Trump is for you.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
So, look, on reflection, David, do you want to admit you were completely and hopelessly wrong about this?
No, in fact, in the aftermath, we figured out how dishonest you were, Piers, during that. And hopefully we can get a little bit of an opportunity. So let me lay it out. First of all, I went back and looked at the UN report in more detail. The UN report said nothing of the sort that you said. What you were referring to dishonestly was one footnote from an anti-trans organization making completely unsubstantiated claims. So I will wait for the apology from you. The UN report doesn't say that, but that wasn't the crux of your question. Second part of it, that ad with Kamala, I would have loved Kamala to respond to it. All she had to say was, at the time that she said that, it was Trump administration Bureau of Prisons policy that that's what's available to trans inmates when determined medically necessary. She would follow the law. You haven't said that. And then number 3, Piers, on who cares about the issue.
That's a good call out right there.
I checked Gallup survey, trans issues at the very bottom. The reality is almost no one's trans. Almost no trans people are in competitive sports, and people do not care about the...
I don't know about that last sentiment. Almost no one's... What?
Issue. However, there's a lot of money made...
I don't know if you're even saying it from like it's only point whatever of the population. Still, that's a little callous.
Grifting about trans this and trans that, even from people on this panel. So I get why they keep bringing it up.
Ben, you burst out laughing then. Would you like to take the first shot back?
Yeah, number one, I've never made any money off the issue, and I doubt hardly anyone that I know, if you want to talk about how few there are making money off trans issues, but that was a very interesting play there. I don't think it's a good one, but we'll move on from that to the second point.
That's what he meant.
Yeah, Vanderbilt, for example, they said, and I quote, "You better get on board as a doctor, and if you don't with trans surgeries, you're out of here." They said that on tape and got busted. Then they said that every kid that we can bring in.
Question.
I'm answering the question, and you may have heard a different question than I did, so you can calm down and let me finish.
Apparently.
You look at what they said at Vanderbilt. They said over $1 million is what each kid is worth if we can hurry up and get them these surgeries, because they're going to be on drugs the rest of their life, and we're going to be able to own them for the rest of their life financially, and we can make millions off the kids. They said that at Vanderbilt University. Now, back to the bigger point here about the election. The reason why this...
Wait. So now they're trying to like code this in caring about like these kids because now it's big pharma pushing their agenda. What?
Was an issue in the election is because Democrats made it an issue.
They wanted to force
little girls to be in locker rooms with grown men. They wanted to force women off the podium and allow men on the podium.
Huh?
Riley Gaines is a great example of this. Maybe you should listen, and then you understand why you got your ass kicked in the last presidential election and nationwide. Actually, I'm glad you guys aren't listening, because you don't listen to the damn people. And the people said this was an issue, and then you mocked them and you act like it's not an issue when in fact it is an issue. So keep acting like you know what's going on in this country, when the reality is this was an important issue to voters. It was an important issue to mothers. It was an important issue to moms that have girls in sports. It was a really important issue to men and dads that have young girls in sports. Okay. And so when you act like you guys weren't trying to do this, and you weren't mandating that men compete with women and men beat women in sports, and you weren't protecting young girls in the locker room, this is what you get. You get the American people and the silent majority that said no more of this radical and extreme position, and they showed up on election day. And if you would have listened, to the American people, you would have understood this issue mattered to moms and dads, including liberals and undecideds, and that's why you lost.
This guy looks like a real-life little rascal.
Yeah, look, I just don't think there's any doubt about this. Let me bring Brian Tyler Cohen in here. You know, as much as my Democrat friends want to try and put their head in the sand and pretend this was not an issue, it just all played into the same...
No, it's not. It's not burying your head in the sand. It's the fact that you guys are overinflating how much of an issue it was. You guys want to pretend that this was so much of a bigger issue. You guys want to pretend that transgenders in sports was the issue that moved the needle of the election and won Trump the election. And you're really trying to spin that narrative. I mean, this is what this is all about. I'm glad that he has these people on specifically, like David Pakman and BTC, to call it out. But he keeps pushing back at oh God, I hate the fact that the host is always so biased against these guests.
The issue for the Democrats, which was firmly rejected by the American electorate across the board, by the way. Latinos, blacks, whites, Jewish, Muslim, just about every...
Again, but then you sit there crowing about, well, it was the economy. We convinced them on the economy, the populism on the economy. Which one was it, Piers?
Everybody gravitated to Trump in this election in bigger numbers than before. And a lot of it was down to the economy.
And no, the other thing that you're completely just negating conveniently was the fact that 10 million other voters that voted for Biden did not come out. It was over 10 million now that they've actually gotten the counts in. It's was something like 12 million voters that voted for Biden did not come out for Harris.
A lot of it was down to the immigration crisis, but a lot of it was also down to what is perceived to be...
See how he just does that?
Insanity, including this whole trans debate. And you've
heard...
Then
he hyperfixates. It was the same thing that it's the same bullshit he was pulling with the Hitler shit.
Bill Clinton was warning them about this. Joe Scarborough said afterwards it had been a disaster. You're seeing David Axelrod
Republican, neocon. Stop. What? Your examples are just shining fucking beams of the left.
Should never have fought on this hill. Lots of senior people now are coming out and saying this was a massive strategic error because you're trying to basically tell people the sky is blue when it's red.
Piers, the reality is that this wasn't an issue except for the fact that Republicans made it an issue. There was almost $250 million disinformation campaign surrounding the issue of gender reassignment surgeries among trans inmates. This is a position that Kamala Harris has been virtually silent on for over the last 5 years, but they took a cherry-picked quote from 2019, shoehorned it into the narrative.
She said it.
Put a ton of money from a very well-funded right-wing media ecosystem behind it. And
convinced Americans. Notice how they never do that to Donald Trump. They never do that. But he said it. But he said it. And then when we say, but he said it, they're just like, oh, well, it's Donald Trump. He just, he does the what do you call it? The boogie woogie or the shift or whatever. Ugh.
That, again, an issue that Kamala Harris
but Brian,
didn't
she
say
had
a word about in this election cycle is somehow the most important issue in this election cycle.
She had so much more money than Trump to spend. So much more money.
$1 billion.
But the idea that the right handles the money here.
It does not change the fact that what the right's money went to was a well-funded disinformation campaign.
Hang on. You say disinformation. Are you denying she said what we all heard her say?
No, but I am denying that it's her position, or that this was her position in the 2024 election cycle. Some comment that she has walked away from 5 years ago, before she was vice president, does not create her position now. But nobody would know that. Nobody would know that.
If I just have one question. Simple question for you.
If I could just have 1 second to finish my I know that you want to shoot it in, but you're going to have to be quiet until I finish my comments. If there wasn't such a well-funded effort, I could do the same thing, bro.
This guy's got such a bullyable face.
I'm sorry. I'm asking you a genuine question about members of Congress.
Such a dork.
Name any Republicans that had trans flags in front of their offices, and then tell me how many Democrats had trans flags in the halls of Congress. You cannot tell me this wasn't an issue when there were congressmen and senators.
The notion,
if you walk the halls of Congress had trans flags up. They made it an issue. They made it an issue, man.
Do you just want to yell, or do you want to actually have a conversation? Because I know that you love the sound of your
That's
voice.
literally all you're doing, dude.
I know, you just want to yell. Like, it's great that you have your own show. You can do that into a camera with nobody interrupting you the whole time. The fact that somebody can acknowledge the humanity of trans people is not the same as the issue of gender reassignment surgeries for trans inmates.
Real quick, this guy looks like he's coming at you live from your therapist's office.
And if you ask the majority of Americans, because of this very well-funded right-wing disinformation campaign,
it's
where,
not
again,
disinformation.
$250 million was put behind this thing,
Piers,
that is why the vast majority of Americans...
Okay, look, before I come to Dave Rubin, I actually want to bring in an extra guest, the former Democratic congressional candidate, Brianna Wu, who is also a trans woman. Brianna, welcome to Uncensored. I can't think of anyone better qualified, given you're the only trans member of the panel now, to respond to what our two liberal friends are saying.
I'll be trans if you'll give me a chance to talk.
You've had so many shows.
There's something actually there. There's something there, Dave.
It's always some gay person that's talking on our behalf. So I'm really excited today to talk about how everyone here is wrong. David, I love your show. I consider you a friend.
I can't be wrong.
You and the Democrats are completely wrong about what trans people need. We don't need you advocating for, trans vaginoplasties in prison. We need to retreat back to the basics of what we need, which is HRT and healthcare. And the problem is the Democrats have been captured by this fringe left.
Yeah, but that's not what they're fighting for. Like, they were literally just saying, hey, she didn't really say that. And I have a feeling that a lot of people would just be like, okay, like, if we were just kind of finding out about it, I was surprised by it because I did the Google search and I was like, oh, this was a thing. Okay, interesting. But I didn't care. I was kind of like, oh, so it's almost like you can get your HRT paid for if you go to prison type of thing. So that was kind of an interesting thought where I was like,
redefined what trans means to all this non-binary nonsense and all this stuff that has nothing to do with how we got our rights in the first place. Ben, you can appreciate this. I was the first trans person to ever transition at Ole Miss, our alma mater. That was very, very different. It was 20 years ago, toddy. And the thing is, the way I got equality and got people to respect me in Mississippi was not by screaming at them or lecturing them about my pronouns. It was getting them to see my humanity. This is something trans people just completely lost. And the problem is,
I just noticed her Final Fantasy VIII poster in the background. I like that.
The Democratic Party is unwilling to call out these bad actors. And because of this, we are having a conversation that does not serve trans people. Piers, I am begging you on this show, stop inviting these stupidest leftists on to make the argument for trans civil rights. Let some people actually understand this stuff. And Dave is laughing because you understand.
I'm actually kind of surprised that she's calling them the dumbest leftists, where it's just like, wait, but I don't see that these were they were really talking about
understand
this.
Integration as a gay man. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You've done the same playbook your whole career.
Well,
this works. This is
first
how you
off,
got
I'm only
marriage.
gay. I'm only gay starting at 10 p.m. What time is it? We'll have to check on that. But actually, you're completely right. Brianna, you're completely right. What's happening with the left is that these saviors, these progressive warriors that you see in these.
Oh, that's when he can go on Ben Shapiro. I get it now. That's how it works.
Boxes here think that they know more about these people than they know about themselves.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And by the way, this has nothing to do with a well-funded evil money machine that the Republicans were doing. There's something called boys and girls, and
Rubin's
they are
the right
different.
guy to talk about
and
that,
most
isn't
parents. Most parents, oh God, you're such a smug prick. Listen, most parents actually want to defend their daughters and don't want them to have the crap kicked out of them by boys, and they don't want them to be playing boys in soccer or any of these other things. That is a
even Simpson's water smuggling.
Defense of girls. If someone, as an adult, 18, 21, we can discuss the age, wants to dress how they want, have any surgeries, take whatever drugs, do whatever they want with their body, most people, even Republicans, don't object to that. And I have no problem referring to Brianna as she, because I can clearly sense she would treat me with respect, and I'll treat her with respect.
Wait a minute. So is that your barometer now, that you'll only properly gender transgender person just based on the fact that they're nice to you? Oh, what a prick.
And it's a two-way street rather than pandering and bowing to a bunch of people that could not give a crap about anybody else.
Yeah, and David, hang on. Let me bring in David Pakman again, because you were very quick when I asked how you felt about being so wrong about this to accuse me of being misleading, disinformation, misconstruing a United Nations report. So because we're a very nimble team here, while you were talking, they just went and double-checked, because I was curious what you were talking about. And we found the United Nations report. And it's not a footnote, as you said, it's page 5 of the report. It says, and I quote, the United Nations says nearly 900 biological females have fallen short of the podium because they were beaten out by trans athletes. The findings were compiled by the UN's Rapporteur on Violence Against Women, entitled Violence Against Women and Girls in Sport. The report said more than 600 athletes didn't medal in more than 400 competitions in 29 different sports, totaling over 890 medals. The replacement of the female sports category.
Shit. Oh, God, I'm glad that he brought this up, because David Pakman did a video about this.
With a mixed sex category has resulted in an increasing number of female athletes losing opportunities, including medals, when competing against males. The report said. So, David, again,
they literally make it sound like there's so many transgender people coming for their sports and their medals that they're just going to push women completely out of it, and eventually they're just going to have to be like, this is the new trans league, and then it's like, wait, but then you create another, what is it? It's the biological women's league. It's, God, these people fucking suck.
Would you like to now apologize for being not only wrong about this being an election issue, but being wrong about your...
I'm trying to be more articulate on this, but sometimes it really just does come down to, oh my God, they suck so bad.
Correction, when I asked you if you were sorry for being wrong.
Look at the underlying source, Piers. I have it printed out.
It was a footnote. It wasn't a footnote.
Look at the underlying source. Now, I do want to say one thing about this. I actually agree with a lot of what Brianna and what Dave Rubin said. I actually agree with it. I am not the savior here to do X, Y, or Z for trans people. What I'm saying is I don't actually think I even need to play that role. I don't think this is the issue that maybe you think I believe it to be. So I agree with a lot of what Dave Rubin and Brianna said there. I do think it's important to consider that when Dave Rubin talks about well-funded this or that, his Russian money source just dried up, and he's the last person who should be talking about funding sources.
The thing is, Rubin's the one who was most guilty in this, to the point where every news publication was like, yeah, it was totally Dave Rubin.
To be honest, Dave,
he was individual one.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
That's what David should be calling him, individual one.
Hold on a second. I can't even hear Ben. Why would Ben jump in? I'm not even addressing Ben.
Hang on. You made a very direct charge against Dave Rubin. Let Dave Rubin reply to that.
No one believes your BS anymore. Jesus Christ, these people are so pathetic.
They've been indicted, Rubin. The Tenet Media people were indicted.
I got
was not indicted. And it said in the report, if you weren't a smug prick to quote him
I didn't say Rubin was indicted. I just said the money dried up.
That Dave Rubin and the others involved did not know about it. And this is why people think you're kind of a jackass.
Yes, this is why everyone hates progressives.
Words in my mouth.
This is the reason why.
They're literally doing, this is why everyone hates you. They did this to Sam Cedar too. This is why you're not invited on shows. You're just such a prick.
You read the report. And by the way, Pakman, if this happened to you, and in the
Ben's
report it said you were unaware,
yeah.
if it said that you were unaware, I would defend you, because I don't think you indict people for things.
I'm defending Dave.
Says in the indictment that they had no knowledge of the money, where it was coming from. So don't be a jackass.
I'm defending Dave on that note. But the money dried up.
Pakman,
you're being a tool, man.
You are no real Pakman, which I'm quite good at. You know, there's a reason. Piers, there's a reason that everyone hates progressives, and the reason that everyone hates progressives, it's not just that they're wrong about all of the issues and they will lie and their only real goal is power. It's because they're also smug elitists. And Pakman, I did see online the other day you were crying because your audience is purging you and you're running.
It's the sweaters, guys. I think it's the sweaters.
Out of subscribers, and you're in a doom loop and the reason is no one gives Piers, pardon me, a shit about this woke bullshit anymore. We've had it, and now you guys can sit back and be quiet. You want to talk about people being paid for their ideas?
Just let me address this.
It's you people who have had the entire cultural machine for 20 years. You've had all of entertainment. You have had all of Hollywood. You have had all of music. You've had all your P. Diddy parties.
It's because everything you produce is lame bullshit. Dude, have you ever actually watched like a CBN, the Christian Broadcast Network, original broadcast? Holy crap. It is just as lame as, like, if you ever went to church and you had one of those, super into God teenagers that were just totally against party, totally against having fun. And they were just, guys, I made a music video about why you shouldn't do drugs. Drugs aren't cool. And it was like set to like Britney Spears or something.
And Epstein. And
that's why.
Everything else. And now enough of us have had it. So crawl back into your little irrelevant cave. It's time, bro.
Can I address any of that, Piers? Is that allowed?
Sure.
Okay. It is absolutely true that in the 48 hours after the election, a lot of very upset leftists started pulling back from political content. I was hit by it.
No, not from political content, from your political content.
I have to be able to talk about it,
them about everything.
I have to be able to talk.
I hate to say this. I actually gained subs.
I have to be able to get a word in. Unless you just want Dave Rubin to talk. Let me know, Piers.
I love hearing Dave Rubin talk.
I would prefer that.
Okay. No, if there's.
Hey, guys, get a room or take that private because woof.
No rebuttal allowed. Then I won't rebut.
You've probably done most of the talking so far. So why don't you do a bit more talking?
I love hearing Dave Rubin
talk. I'll say this and then I'll be quiet the rest of the show.
Because Brian hasn't said anything for ages. I want to bring him in.
The theme. I want Brian to win. That completely reversed. I do think that it must be that Dave is upset that Brian and I have surpassed him in viewership and subscribers. Because if you just look at the numbers, it lasted 48 hours. They all came back.
I don't even know who this other guy is.
Well, look, if it's going to come to that, I'm the biggest rocket in the room, right? I mean, it's like as Trump said to Kim Jong-un, you got your little rocket, I got my big rocket. So let's not get into the size of each other's YouTube rocket.
But that's the smug nonsense. Nobody cares about that.
It's the facts, Dave.
I honestly have no idea what you're...
Let me bring in Brian.
I'm a firecracker.
What your views are, but I couldn't care less. I know your ideas are terrible. Like, I don't care what your views are. Who cares?
Let me bring in Brian.
You brought it up.
Brian,
I'm probably a sparkler.
On a wider point about this whole issue of wokeism, Elon Musk was big on this for the entire presidential campaign, saying that there's a woke mind virus and it's going to get rejected. It has inarguably been rejected. And I do think we have reached a tipping point now where people have just felt that the left has gone so far bonkers. Look at Bill Maher. Bill Maher's politically where I am, pretty much. And he shares my view completely. The liberals basically have gone nuts. They've taken these extreme positions on stuff that most Americans, and in fact it's the same in the UK, but most Americans just feel no connection with whatsoever. As people like Axelrod, Joe Scarborough, Bill Clinton, others, as they all come forward and say this out loud, do you kind of agree with them? I mean, do you accept there's got to be a lot of inward looking by the Democrats here to say, we have gone too far here?
Piers, here's why this is not going to go away. Yeah. It's because it's not that Republicans are descending into some woke pit of the depths of hell. It is that everybody else will accept Republican framing on wokeism. Yeah. And so, look, I think...
I mean, he was doing it at the very beginning of this video. He's literally participating in it.
I'm a pretty good indicator of where the mainstream of the Democratic Party is. Do you know how many times I've spoken about trans issues on my shows because they were the #1 issue of the day? Literally never. Literally never. But if you watch Fox News, if you watch all of the ads that happen in this election cycle, you would think that it was insane. All Democrats could think of from the second they woke up in the morning until the second they went to bed at night. It was, how can we get more people surgeries, gender reassignment surgeries, let's get just trans, sports, like the whole thing. It is not what Democrats are talking about, but it's what Republicans exploit in terms of convincing.
I don't agree. Hang on, don't all shout, please. Hang on that one point.
It is so difficult to finish.
Brian, on that one point, all I would say is this: both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have signed up to trans athletes being allowed to compete in women's sport. So it's not a right-wing propaganda campaign to try and tell people that's what's happening. It is official government policy.
Did Kamala Harris say a word? Did Kamala Harris say a word about?
No, because. All right, so I see his point there, but it's the way that you over-report on it. It's the way that, like, you guys make it the issue of the day. Therefore, you're saying, like, by merit of you guys making it the issue of the day, all of a sudden it takes on broader importance. And then you have so many people talking around the water cooler about it. And then you're like, well, see, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Trans people in this election cycle.
She has definitely spoken about it this year.
Yes.
This year, while she was running to be the president of the United States, which seems like an important distinction in terms of what we're talking about here.
She
mentioned the issue of trans.
Actually, I think she did at the town hall. You're right.
She did. Yeah, she talked about it in CNN during the town hall. But here's the problem with what you're saying is it's Democrats that advocated and mandate that women have to compete with men in sports. There was no Republican doing that, and you say like it didn't exist now. You say that it's not happening where they're actually doing transitional surgeries to very young children. It's not Republicans that are doing that. Republicans are passing laws to protect kids under 18 from body mutilation. You say that it's the NCAA that's not allowing athletes or the Olympic Committee in boxing at the Olympics. We all watched it, men beating the hell out of women. And then you say it's not an issue of the left. If it's not the left that's doing this, then who is it? Because it sure as hell isn't the right. Yeah. And this is why I go back to the point. You lose elections when you lie to the American people to their face and you say, we're not doing this when everybody sees you're doing it.
Well, let me again.
First of all,
let me again bring in Brianna because you are. Hang on. Let me bring in a trans woman who's put her hand up.
So this is my whole problem with all of this, Piers, is, look, respectfully, the liberal shows here, you're right. You don't talk about trans issues. You don't invite people like me on. We don't have a say in our own party. And what has happened? This fringe, progressive, nutjob part of our party has hijacked my movement as well as we've hijacked so many other movements. Look at black people. Do you think black people want their local police department burned down and like defund the police? Of course they don't. Do you think most women want to shout their abortions? Of course they don't. Trans people are just the latest victim. And the problem is the left, like respectfully, trans people don't have a voice on the left. So you're listening to this non-binary, communist, Hamas-supporting fringe, and they're the ones talking to Kamala and saying, like, look, unless you stand with like vaginoplasty in prison, you're a transphobe. So of course the entire party is going along with that. The problem is then it gives Ben and his ilk this ammunition. So they're the only ones talking to America about these issues. You heard him say a bunch of stuff here that's just not true.
Okay.
And we have to deal with it.
What did I say? It's not true. Hold on.
Separate chat, but I actually good point was just brought up. The woman in the Olympics was not a man. They went through this. She is a biological woman. It's XY chromosome, and honestly, the fact that he just kind of snidely got away with that needs to be focused on.
What did I say that was not true? Because there's nothing that I just said there.
The woman that was in boxing, we're not sure yet. I personally believe she's intersex, but that is a different issue than calling her.
Well, actually, that's not right. No.
Brianna,
hang on. Please, if I'm wrong, let me know.
The latest report is that, hang on, I can answer that. The latest report that came out of France, an investigation that came out of France last week, is that Iman Khalif, who won the gold medal, who fought an opponent who quit after 40 seconds because she'd never been hit that hard, that Iman Khalif has the male chromosomes, and that's why she was banned from the World Championships along with one other fighter. And there's been no actual proof that she doesn't have male chromosomes. So for all intents and purposes, I'm afraid it looks like she is a biological male, albeit not a full biological male. In other words, my understanding.
Again, this is getting to the point where any woman with broad shoulders or a Adam's apple, like, because I've actually known some biological women that had like the Adam's apple. I'm telling you right now, this is going to get them lumped in it. Like, we're about to see a really dark side of society.
Standing from that investigation is that she has male sexual reproductive organs, but not completely.
It's a dude.
But what it does do, it gives her the advantage of male biology, which means that she won the gold medal. But I want to segue out of this.
Wait. So can we argue that because Dave, he sucks at sports, that he's lacking the proper amount of testosterone? Because I'm sure Dave Rubin's not exactly what I would call, a sports guy.
Don't support trans.
Watch, I'm wrong, and he's like an actual baller, and puts up some 3-pointers or whatever.
That's women in women's sports. Just to be clear, we didn't transition.
Piers, can I try something real?
Most of us are under socialized computer.
You know what? Here's the thing. If I'm a liberal, Brianna, and I've spent the last 4 years trying to tell my liberal mates, get off this bullshit about trans athletes destroying women's sport. It may be this election result should serve as the reminder to people, get off this thing.
Exactly.
Because people don't want to hear it.
The only time that I've heard this issue...
Let me give Brian the final word on this, Brian.
Yes.
The only time that I have heard or debated this issue is literally with you and other people who accept right-wing framing on this issue. So the only people who are continuing to perpetuate this as it is right-wing framing.
I'm not right-wing.
We're not talking about it. Again, the only time I hear about it, you can watch MSNBC.
We're being gaslit, guys. This is infuriating.
You can watch communist, Marxist, MSNBC all day long. You will not hear this issue. The only reason that it's put into the zeitgeist on a daily basis.
Let me bring in Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin every day on my show. They talk about this stuff. Listen, how about we let's try it this way.
He works for MSNBC.
A simple yes or no answer. Let's try a simple yes or no question to Pakman and the guy in the hoodie. Let's try it this way.
Good point. I feel like this whole conversation ignores the fact that no one gives a fuck about women in sports. Exactly.
MSNBC. There's LGBTQ in breaking news right now on MSNBC.
Joe Rogan and the Undertaker brought this up.
MSNBC. I love calling out the BS. It's right there. MSNBC on my phone.
Dude, I don't know what that is.
Hang on, Dave Rubin. Oh my God. Dave Rubin.
Yeah, Piers, let me just. I'll try this very simply for our progressive friends here, for Pakman and the hoodie guy. If you
wait a minute. So you guys know how the algorithm curates news for people?
I don't know if you guys have kids, but if you had a 14-year-old girl and she was a wrestler, would you be okay?
Stuff,
yes
guys.
or no? No other words. Yes or no? Would you be okay with her wrestling a 14-year-old boy?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I wrestled for a decade, and men and women wrestle together. That's how it works.
Please stop advocating this. It hurts me. It hurts.
That's how it works. I wrestled for a decade.
You're such a trans person. You have a progressive warrior fighting for you.
I've actually got a better.
I've covered this where, again, I've played on co-ed hockey teams where our best player was a girl. So
I have a better question. I have a better question. Hang on. I have a better question, Brian.
Frankly, I thought Miss
I have a better question. I have a better question.
Maybe he knows.
If Floyd Mayweather says, I'm now identifying as a woman and wants to fight against a female biological actual woman, Brian, would you be happy with that?
No, of course not.
So you agree?
It would. Yes, but we're having two different. Piers, we're having two different conversations. I'm saying that the reason the vast majority of Americans think that this was the number one issue in this election cycle is because a well-funded right-wing media ecosystem.
I love how Brianna's just sitting there taking it. She's literally getting bullied essentially by the other guy who's she's playing devil's advocate for right now. This is why she sucks.
And continues to thrust it
Ben, what are you showing
as if this is what Democrats care about. As if this is what Democrats.
Wait, okay, hold on. Opinion? Oh my God!
What are you talking about?
He pulls up an opinion.
Trump's presidency would mean for trans people like me. Headline MSNBC.
It's an opinion article.
as we speak. But MSNBC never talks about trans issues at all. Yeah, there
They
it
must
is.
have access to some sort of...
That's not the dunk you think it is, man. You kind of just dunked on yourself. Again, the fact that this showed up from his algorithm, because at the very beginning of that was on the front page of his Google. Gee, wonder why that is.
Let me go to Dave Rubin and change subject. Dave Rubin, I want to play you a clip. Hang on.
Yes.
Let's change subject. We've done the trans debate. Hang on.
I have a phone too, and it has MSNBC on it. Yes. Democrats would get nothing for throwing trans Americans under the bus. Where did we get this thing? This is incredible.
You guys can think
here?
it's like some gotcha to that MS acknowledges.
I'm changing the subject.
That MS acknowledges the existence of trans people.
I'm changing the subject.
That doesn't mean that this election cycle. That's this election cycle with some referendum.
No, dude. This is why it's getting harder and harder to watch Piers Morgan, because, like, for as much as he's an objective observer, yeah, come on, he's railroading this. He lets this asshole in the middle have all the time in the world to be a fucking asshole, and then lets Dave, because he loves the sound of Dave Rubin's voice. But the second BTC's kind of like, no, this is why. I want to change the subject.
Brian, I'm changing the subject. We're running out of time. I want to discuss other things, all right? I want to play a clip of Donald Trump at the White House today. He's just met Joe Biden, and this is what happened.
Politics is tough, and it's, in many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Joe.
You're welcome.
Now, Dave, I've got to say, kudos to Joe Biden for doing that. Would it not have been better for America if Donald Trump had done that himself?
Thank you. Well, okay.
4 years ago. Serious question.
Serious question.
Yeah, I think you can make that argument, but I think we're long past that argument. I would rather focus on what Joe Biden, I think, did right there, and what we now have in a very interesting, 2+ months of the remainder of the Biden administration, where basically Biden, or whatever's left of Biden, or whoever's driving Biden, no longer.
Wow, can't even give him. You can't in this moment where even Donald Trump was being a bigger person. Dave Rubin has to go and just take it even lower. You gotta love it. This grifting piece of shit
has to placate to the completely lunatic progressive fringe anymore. And Biden actually could take advantage of some of the reordering that we feel throughout the world right now, not just in America, but quite literally across the globe. And he can actually pave the way for a really nice transition into a Trump presidency that I believe is going to reignite the American dream and bring back an 80s style revolution in America. I think we're going to have a burst throughout
not the 80s.
The economy. I think it's going to be cultural. I think we're going to get new music and new art and new creativity and new businesses on the forefront of AI and all of these things. And Biden doesn't, he has too much.
Or we're going to get the 50th iteration of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Come on, dude.
Now, where he could be like, you know what, we're going to get our 5 or 6 American hostages who are somewhere under Gaza back. We can do that. Like there's a real win for Biden to end up with here.
Well, you guys miss me so much. You got to take me. We're going back to the Reaganomics and the trickle down.
Rather than, you ended up.
We are really that greed is good. Like, instead of it just permeating in like the upper middle class or, the upper class of society, it's just everywhere now. Everybody's just trying to get there.
With dementia, and then ushered in quite literally the worst candidate in American history, and placated to the radical left for 4 years when you were sold to us as old, moderate Joe. So Biden, and again, we don't know if Biden's running the show or it's Jill or whoever.
Now you admit he's moderate.
But I think there's a real opportunity for him right now to do the right thing and usher in a really strong 4 years for Donald Trump.
Okay, and David Pakman, the appointments that Trump has put forward so far, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will run a new Department of Government Efficiency. I mean, having the most successful, richest, and possibly smartest guy on the planet getting stuck into government bureaucracy, I would have thought that's very popular, isn't it?
No.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Short answer.
Department for Government Efficiency. New department when Trump wants to eliminate departments, and instead of being run by one person, it's being run by 2.
But they are going to eliminate, according to Musk, they are going to eliminate dozens of departments, though. So by the end of the process,
he said he's going to get rid of 300.
So they're going to eliminate departments and create new ones that don't even need to be there.
Departments.
They're going to get rid of a lot of departments, David Pakman. So I mean, that seems to me to be a good thing, doesn't it? Or do you think?
No, actually, no, because that also, you get rid of those departments, then they're not getting funding, and then we're not like. What the actual, if they're trying to do this, like, we're trying to consolidate and then, just conveniently put these billionaires who happen to run these industries into power. Like, again, this goes back to the his first cabinet with Rex Tillerson. Right after the BP oil spill, he was made the Secretary of State. Convenient, right?
Listen, in his first term,
guess what he did? He started. Did he put more money into the investigations for the BP oil spill, or did he try to revoke funding? I'm going to go with B.
It was not exactly promises made, promises kept. I'm going to reserve judgment to see what happens. And the reason why, and Dave, honestly, I know we're not getting along here. I do like you. I wish we were still friends. I'd love to get our kids together to play soon. Dave Rubin making predictions is crazy because his predictions always go wrong. Red wave for Republicans in 2018 didn't happen. 30% black vote for Trump in 2020 didn't happen. Republicans get 54 Senate seats in 2022. I've got a list of 30 Rubin predictions.
You can not like him all you want. You might want to start answering, dude, because he's got a laundry list of where you were very confident about this too.
They're always wrong. So I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see.
I can see why you're looking for new friends, Pakman. I think Piers can attest to this. Being in the business we're in, you're going to get election predictions wrong. I have no problem admitting that. I get election predictions wrong all the time. But when it comes to getting the ideas right, I think I've had a pretty damn good track record on that. And again, you're just illustrating why nobody likes.
How come nobody brings up when he was working at TYT and when he definitely wasn't talking this way when he worked there?
Progressives, your smug, holier than thou attitude. It's just disgusting to most people. You think you're the savior for people that want nothing to do with you. And frankly, for all.
Oh, come on. That's a little disingenuous. Everybody was making election predictions at that point.
The David Pakman subscribers that want to watch a show that actually is informative and funny.
It was the era in which David did it, where he was just like, I'm very confident about this.
And interesting, and dare I say irreverent, I would tune into the Rubin Report.
Well, they're probably all watching Uncensored at the moment. Let me bring in Brian. I mean, Brian, sure. I thought it was very interesting, this meeting between Trump and Biden. They obviously can't stand each other. They've abused each other all year. But Biden did show him the respect of bringing him to the White House and shaking his hands. And they talked about.
Looked him in the eye. Because if you remember when he went to meet Obama, he was slouched down. He wouldn't even look him in the eye. He kind of did like this little passive, like, okay.
About a smooth transition and stuff. I mean, that is good, isn't it? After the mayhem we saw 4 years ago. I mean, I like to see that. What I would hope is that Trump, in his inauguration speech, hits a much more unifying tone than he did in 2016.
We'll see. We'll see.
Right. I mean, I guess we're 8 years into new tone for Trump. It's never going to.
Yeah. God. Great point.
Happen. He is not that person. Biden afforded him every ounce of respect that he couldn't be bothered to show, and that he couldn't be bothered to show Joe Biden or any Democrat over the last 4 years, while he lied about some big lie, and all of these right-wing mouthpieces perpetuated this lie with zero evidence, and they all just claimed that because Donald Trump was too small to admit that he lost, they all claimed that there must be some fraud, which magically disappeared as soon as 2024 rolled around. All right, so there was mass cheating that the Democrats figured out how to do when they didn't control government. But then when Democrats do control government, we just forgot to cheat this time around? The fact is that there is no acknowledgement from the right that for the last 4 years, these Republican officials that are listening to Donald Trump, these Republican mouthpieces like the ones on this panel.
Look at him. And again, you want to sit here and call it like David Pakman smug? This guy just going, well, no, he made a good point. I mean, we are not being very consistent in our moral views.
All lied because it served their political interest, but now they won't acknowledge that he was lying once it doesn't serve their political interest anymore.
All right, Ben, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, let's go back to the question you asked. Is it good for America to see these two men shaking hands and talking? Yes. I actually think it's probably because Joe Biden experienced what Donald Trump experienced for 4 years, and that was people coming after you, trying to undermine you, and having a coup on you. And when the big five of the Democrats...
What? Oh, yes, because there was this large push to, convince people that the election was stolen on the Democratic end.
Party excommunicated Joe Biden.
God, I want to grab him by his ears and just knee to his face,
and said, we're going to force you out. I think he was probably the happiest man in America the night that Kamala Harris lost, because it was revenge for them kicking
Sorry, I don't advocate bullying, but except this guy.
Him out. So I think there is a different Joe Biden sitting with a different Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is different now than he was in 2016. And I think these two men have experienced this level of persecution against them. And they're probably...
He looks like he walked into a Great Clips and just said, give me haircut. And that's what they gave him.
There's genuinely more respect now for...
Not a haircut, just give me a haircut.
The two of them than there has ever been in the last 8 years.
Hang on, Brian. Ben, hang on, Brian.
I've got a question for Ben. Heard such lazy commentary in my entire life.
Ben,
Brian,
again, what's the point of having these panel shows if you can't let one actually respond to the other without Piers just going, well, I need to frame this before we go any further.
Joe Biden was the happiest person in the world.
Let me ask you a question. My dude. Excuse me. I run this panel at the moment. Ben, a question for you, Ben, because I put this forward on X and got a lot of blowback from MAGA Republicans. But I said, if Trump really wanted to set a different tone for the second administration, what about pardoning Hunter Biden? not because I think he's innocent of the crimes, but because it would go a long way, perhaps, to showing the left that Trump is a different person, that he is prepared to forgive and move on. What do you think of that?
I think it's a terrible idea. I think you have to be held accountable for your actions. And
see, no, this guy wants more chaos. This guy wants Trump to be Trump. And for everybody, and he's one of these assholes that's just like, well, the left, they have no decorum. They're always coming at us in bad faith. Fuck this guy so hard. I can't even stand it.
And I think the abuse of power by Hunter Biden, by Joe Biden's brother, and by the Biden crime family, and the money they were receiving from Ukraine and from Russia and from China is egregious. Now, let me also say, I think the olive branch is, hey, I'm not going to weaponize the government to come after you. I'm going to let you go off into the sunset, but I'm not going to make it easy.
How come nobody can call it? Like, again, they run protection for these guys because that was one of the dumbest points made in this entire hour.
On you and do this pardon, which, by the way, if he did pardon him, I'm a realist. The two people in these boxes over here, I promise you, there's no way that would make them like Donald Trump. They would still hate him. They would still come after him. They would still say he's Hitler and we're all Nazis. And so I'm sorry, their elections have consequences. We kicked your ass. We're going to go in and do government.
Let me bring in Brianna.
And that's the way it's going to be.
Okay, let me bring in Brianna. Brianna, just on a big picture here. Brianna, as an American, Brianna, what would you like to hear Trump say on Inauguration Day?
I would like to see us find a way to move forward as a country. I've thought so much, Piers, about what I'm going to do differently this time.
Well, it's kind of weird. Wouldn't that include, I don't know, having some Democrats on like in a cabinet position as a show of good faith, kind of like Kamala Harris was doing, even though to her detriment?
Around because resistance 2.0 is not what the country needs right now. Don't get me wrong. I am a Democrat. I worked 16-hour days trying to get Kamala Harris elected. This election broke my heart. But at the same time, what is frustrating to me about this panel is I see my fellow Democrats and we're sliding into the same mistakes that brought us here. The American people do not care respectfully about your show viewer count. They don't care about this left versus
she's right about that.
Right nonsense. They are looking for stuff that makes their lives better. So what I am committed to doing is Trump has done some stuff I think is good. I think he's taking a much harder stand on Israel. I like the people he's appointing to represent us.
How so?
To bring our countries closer together.
Wait, what is she reading? Because I'm not even kidding about this because just, what was it, 2 days ago, his... the guy in the position that is over. Oh, Mike Huckabee. Fucking Mike Huckabee was talking about how they don't have. They're not even people. So, like, what is she talking about? Is she just hearing like what she wants to hear?
Really spit in the Jewish community's face. And, you know, what I'm willing to do as an American, not as a Democrat. So when he does stuff like that, I agree with, I will stand with him. And, you know, Ben, you're wrong. If Trump were to come forward tomorrow and say, for the good of the country, I am pardoning Hunter Biden because these charges are just out of proportion to the issue at hand, that would mean a lot to me. But what I need for y'all to do is to give some of that goodwill back. We are not going to move forward as a country if everyone on this panel cannot stop hating each other at some
point. To let someone get away with abusing their power. That's not goodwill.
Pick something else.
Other chat, her takes on Israel are pretty bonkers in general.
When you abuse the power you're given,
Trump should be sentenced. Well, I actually, personally,
now I kind of want to look into it.
I think Joe Biden, before he goes out of office, I think he should pardon Trump for the ridiculous Stormy Daniels
here we
case.
go.
I honestly do.
Wait, can I ask a question here?
Oh my God.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, even if he did, this dipshit on the bottom there would just be like, you know, I think that Trump should just slap his hand away or slap the paper away and be like, get out of here, nerd.
Yes. Ben, do you think that Donald Trump should go through with his sentencing then because everybody should be held accountable for their crimes?
I don't. No, I think the whole thing was a farce.
No.
I think the whole Stormy Daniels case, I think Joe
Biden
should pardon him and end the whole thing now.
Do you think that Donald Trump should be allowed to be continued being prosecuted for in the Washington, D.C. case or the classified documents case or the Georgia RICO prosecution since everybody has to be held accountable for their crimes?
No, because I think it's very clear that it says you cannot go after a sitting president, and I think we all know
that's
his law there, and every time I just answered the question. I just said no. The first thing came out of my mouth was the word no, and then I...
That's the funny part. He wasn't a city president at that point either.
Explain why. You need to
listen. So you said everybody should be held accountable for their crimes, but not Trump.
The American people just held Donald Trump accountable, and they said they thought it was crap, and they reelected him.
That's not how it works.
No, that's not how that works, dude.
You said that everybody should be held accountable for their crimes.
That is exactly why they have said we're going to wind it all down.
Okay, all right, listen, Dave Rubin has to leave in a couple of minutes. Dave, you talked about predictions for elections. It would be remiss of me not to point out that about 9 days before the election, I said this on Fox News. Look, my gut feeling, and I had this in 2016, and when I was saying it and writing it in 2016, people were laughing at me. But I kept saying, I'm getting a feeling that the Trump train is steaming to victory. I get that feeling again now. I've been in LA, I've been in New York.
He's so fucking proud of himself.
Who did not vote Trump last time, but who are prepared this time. Even if they don't like him, they're prepared to vote for him this time to stop Kamala Harris becoming president. I'm going on my gut, and I'm feeling he could actually end up winning quite big. You know the moral of that story, Dave Rubin, is always trust a British gut, is the moral of that story.
Yeah, well, the moral...
Oh, yes, because your gut has given us such great cuisines as fish and chips and porridge?
The moral of the story, I think, for the progressives is stop being so authoritarian and hysterical and better than everybody, because what you've done is you've taken all of the good liberals of America, of which there are many, and most of them are now Republicans, or at least voting for Republicans. And I would like to say to Brianna, who I've enjoyed watching a bit of her evolution here, is that what I think you're going to find over the next year or two is that consistent...
Brianna Wu and Anna Kasparian coming next year.
You are going to have some differences with people on the right, but they are going to welcome you. They are going to treat you with respect. They're going to agree to disagree, and you're going to have rich conversations and find an awful lot of agreement where you thought there would only be scorched earth. And on the other side of it, you're going to find exactly what you have found over the course of this panel. And I think very quickly that will change your party affiliation. But maybe I'm wrong, because I do get some predictions wrong. We'll see.
Well, thank you, Dave Rubin. Thank you. Sorry, who was that? Brianna, last word to you. Last word to Brianna.
I hear what you're saying, Dave, and respectfully, trans rights are under attack like I've never seen in my entire life. And I transitioned over 20 years ago. So I will not be moving to the other side like you, but I'm always open for conversation. We got trans rights by policies right down the middle, and it's what this fringe left has completely thrown us under the bus on. So
and you know what, Brianna? I think that's such an important point. I absolutely and have always wanted fairness and equality.
That's so weird, because so what he did is he framed this argument. He made the argument about the dumbest part about all of these, like the trans sports thing, not trans equality, none of that. And then he just kind of throws it to her, and she's confirming him, like, his thoughts that, the leftists are the problem for even bringing this up and standing up for the idea of trans people in sports and standing up for us. That's the problem.
For all trans people.
She is, what the hell?
Of the same kind that I enjoy, but not to the point where it starts to erode women's rights. Exactly. And that's the crucial debate that has to be properly had.
Piers,
and that's the one Democrats have failed
on. Pierce, this whole thing changed 10 years ago. If I was writing a book on the history of trans rights and when it went wrong, it was on your show. 10 years ago, Janet Mock on CNN, you held an interview with her. We were not talking about trans stuff back then. Everyone in the community was thrilled about it. What did she do? She went on your program. She lectured you. She was beyond rude. She told you she was not interested in your opinion on anything. She just shut you down. It was this.
Well, worse than that, she said that I was very respectful to her. I gave her the platform of CNN Primetime Worldwide. And then because I said that she was born a boy and then transitioned to be a trans woman, she said that was transphobic and tried to basically destroy me. And right there was the start of this nonsense. Obviously, I wasn't being transphobic. Actually, I was being completely biologically, scientifically accurate. She was born a biological boy, and she transitioned and became a trans woman. And I have full respect for her for doing that. But don't then go after people who actually are allies. That's the irony.
But Piers, this is the problem. I'm saying this to you respectfully, but I've seen your evolution over the last 10 years, and I understand why you have less patience from my side than you did 10 years ago.
I feel like it's unnecessary to say that, though.
I get it. I deal with these freaks every day. But you've got to, our stories, people that understand that actually medically transition, our stories are not in the media. No one is talking to us. We're horrified by all this nonsense.
I agree.
Brianna, give us a shot.
Brianna, it's why you're such an important voice in this. Because again, I have repeatedly said the people I feel most sorry for are people who have transitioned, who are just trying to get on with their lives and be treated equally and fairly, and they're getting dragged into all these ludicrous headlines like 6'4" biological.
Yeah, you're the ones producing the headlines. Weird how that works.
Male who was crap at swimming in the men's game transitions and suddenly beats women by 50 seconds. It is bullshit.
By the way,
didn't she get like 5th place? Wait a minute. Especially because the one who actually had a problem with it, that was the whole issue.
That's not at odds with anything. That's not at odds with anything that the Trump administration is pushing right now. Remember, many years ago, when Trump was asked about trans bathrooms, he said, "Hey, I build hotels. You want to tell me I can have one bathroom? That's fine."
And by the way, when it comes to Trump and the LGBTQ community, can we just remind ourselves? In fact, why don't we? Given it's been quite a contentious panel. Trump has been ending his rallies with the famous YMCA dance, right? Which is a gay anthem performed by a bunch of gay guys, right? And is now taken fire and has now become a trend around the world. Why don't we all come together as one big cis, LGBT, whatever you want to call it, community, and have a little dance. Here we go.
I'm so glad they muted this, but I'm gonna get past that cringy part right there.
And Brianna, lovely to have you all on the program. Thank you all very much indeed. Enjoyed the spirited debate. Long may it continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, now the Democratic campaign has been labelled a $1 billion disaster by dissenting voices within the DNC amid reports of lavish spending on celebrities. Despite record-breaking fundraising, the campaign somehow appears to have ended up in debt. Joining me now is Lindy Lee, a Democratic donor and a member of the DNC's National Finance Committee. Well, welcome to you, Lindy. It seems quite extraordinary that Kamala Harris should get all this cash and then still get into debt. How has that happened?
Your guess is as best as mine. So thank you so much for having me. And it's just amazing how every single hour more reports come out to substantiate what I've been saying. Just in the last couple of hours, more reports are coming out about how even the DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, is shocked at the amount of debt that we're going to be saddled with in the years to come. And we don't even know the
DNC whistleblower. You know what? I don't know. This kind of, I'm not even sure if I care, to be completely honest, because what's this accomplishing? Aside from just being like, hey, look how embarrassing this is. It's whatever. Also, I think that she's doing the whistleblower thing, but also acts, I don't know, like she has absolutely, nothing in the Democratic Party. It seems like she's abandoning ship and just trying to make sure that she's, not on the bad side here. That was, frustrating. Yeah, Brianna Wu is definitely, is that her name? Yeah, right? Forgot her name already. I'm not actually really familiar with her outside of just other content creators talking about her. It was kind of shocking to me when she was mentioning that she, worked for the Kamala Harris campaign and all that. It's like, wow, could have fooled me. Seems like you definitely are beyond contrarian on this one. But oh boy. Alrighty, well, I'm gonna end this one. But let me know what you think about that. Let me know if do you think that it's right wing framing? Do you think that it's this whole bubble and realistically? I don't know, maybe they're kind of obsessed with that, and the actual issues that we are talking about specifically have to do with, legislation going against, trans activists and trans people, screw us. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. Leave a like, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. I really appreciate it. Trying to get to 1,000, so I'll see you in the next one.